So a tribal leader needs to say, and this is why I was successful at things. I don't know everything. Somebody knows more than me. Find who knows more than me, and then make sure that you're on top of it, and have staff who are willing to be stay on top of each discipline. So day by day, you know what's going on here and up here.
Mark Trahant here. This is the second part of my conversation with Cecilia Fire Thunder. In some 50 years of reporting, you really have a chance to get to know people over time. And Cecilia Fire Thunder is one of those people where you know that she's helped shape the 20th century in so many ways, but particularly as a leader and someone who stood up for everything from women's health rights to tribal sovereignty and city rights. So I'm really pleased for the second part of this conversation. Please join us. This is Breaking History, and I'm Mark Trahant. Before you go on, before we hit the second part of this interview, be sure to comment, share, and hit that subscribe button.
So I remember after I was impeached, I got a call from the Houston Democrats. Miss Fire Thunder, we're going to pay your way to come to Houston. You've been under so much bad stuff. We want to take care of you. So the Houston Democrats flew me to Houston, got me a hotel room, and they said Ann Richard was going to come to Sydney.
The greatest nation of the free world has had a leader for 8 straight years that has pretended that he cannot hear our questions over the noise of the helicopters. And we know he doesn't want to answer, but we have a lot of questions. And when we get our questions asked, or there is a leak or an investigation, the only answer we get is, I don't know, or I forgot. But you wouldn't accept that answer from your children. And for 8 straight years, George Bush hasn't displayed the slightest interest in anything we care about.
And so, and then plus they gave me all this beautiful stuff about Pumpkin Coach, books and stuff that they knew she was my hero. And then come to find out that she had cancer and Richard. So her medical condition did not allow her to come and visit. So the person that took her place was the first woman ever argued in the Supreme Court.
Sarah Weddington argued the case that became Roe v. Wade. She wanted to spend time with Cecilia Fire Thunder because of her stand on abortion rights at Ogallala Lakota. That act led to her impeachment as president of the Ogallala Lakota Nation.
It's a right to choose. My body belongs to me, right? And especially if it's a pregnancy, it created an act of violence, which is rape or sexual abuse. Well, no, this is my belief. This is why I'm a real proponent of choice. So if I was raped, that child was created, that's the third person. And so every human being should be created in a good group. And so the Roe versus Wade and the right to choose is, so if I was raped, I can terminate that because it was not free.
Nowadays, Cecilia is spending her time digging up stories from the past, adding context to our knowledge.
So the work I'm doing as a director of truth and healing, I'm writing the story of Holy Rosary Mission, Red Cloud Indian School, 1888. I went to school there, so I'm writing the history of that. And so all of this opens up my world. I go, I didn't know that. I was supposed to know that. So I was able to go to the archives and pull up the minutes pull up the document of that 1877 meeting between the President of the United States and the entourage of tribal leaders. It's all documented. Right. The other thing, and I want the listeners to know that the one thing the white man did, kept track, he kept track of everything. So every Indian agent for every agency in America, their records are in our. So McGillicuddy was the first Indian agent for Pine Ridge. And so I have all his records. And so this is fun. This is a story that just absolutely grabbed me. So after they put us on the reservation, 1889, the boundaries of the Pine Ridge Reservation were established. So once they put us within the boundaries of this reservation, our life way changed. And how we ate changed. And so what the United States government did is they gave us white flour and sugar. And of course, we never went the heck to them. So in McGillicuddy's record, so he was on horseback, checking on us. He found bags of white flour sitting in corners collecting. And boy, did he get mad. So they told him, well, what is it? What do we do? They didn't know what to do with the white flour. And so somewhere along the way, and then we didn't have oven. So this is my interpretation. So they took that white flour, mixed it with water, and then put it over the open stove with a skillet and fried it. That's probably where fried bread came from. I tell people, our bodies were not created for it. And so diabetes, the foundation for diabetes began when they brought white flour to him.
I want to ask one last question, and that is, you've been a tribal leader, former tribal leader, so you kind of have lots of perspective. Right now, it just seems like everything is happening so fast, and it's one issue right after another, and you can't even close the book on the first one before another one pops up. Mm-hmm. How do we take the long view in this kind of?
Well, I think that, there are all these, what I consider issues, education, healthcare, is to surround yourself with people who know each. Healthcare itself is a huge discipline. Direct services, emergency rooms, patient care, hospitals, clinics, nurses, doctors. And then within healthcare, you have all the other pieces like behavioral health, which is a big gray area right now. And then over here, you have education. So on an Indian reservation, you're going to have a variety of educational who's teaching who. So on the Pine Ridge Reservation, we have 5 public schools funded by the state of South Dakota. They get the most money because they get impact aid and Johnson & O'Malley. That's a whole different group. Over here, we have one BIA school, Pine Ridge School, which is still under the BIA and the Department of Defense budget. So they have the highest paid employees. And over here, we have 6 tribal schools, 638, like my school. So we're local control, okay? And then we have 2 private schools. So the education on a reservation is not this way. So it's always good to have people in every discipline stay on top of stuff and be willing. So a tribal leader needs to say, and this is why I was successful, I think. I don't know everything. Somebody knows more than me. Find who knows more than me. And then make sure that you're on top of it. And have staff who are willing to stay on top of each discipline. So day by day, you know what's going on here and up here. So always make sure you're surrounded by people who are going to just be your eyes and ears for healthcare, education, whatever, okay? And then while I guess the best part is all the new things, all the technology is available. So you can make sure you're on top of everything as well through technology, internet, everybody, I was watching the tribal leaders here. We complained about our kids was sitting on going like this. I like to take a picture of all the tribal leaders just going.
That's true.
And so a successful tribal leader will say, I don't know everything. Somebody knows what them. Let's find that person who knows more than me and reach out to that person and keep me apprised of it. That to me is my It's a secret. It's not a secret. It's just common sense, too. That because somebody always knows more than you. Yeah.
In fact, and this is very different, but Jack Welch, when he was running GE, said his A players, his smartest people, always hired A players, and the B people hired C, D, E, because they didn't want to be threatened. And that's when he knew when someone was the leaders, they hired someone smarter than them.
Yeah. Well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, I guess I've always liked politics. I'm not sure how to define it, but early on, I realized that decisions that are made impact us. Not just at that moment, but the decisions made in the past have impacted us. But then, as I became more familiar with our sovereignty, as I became more familiar with my unique relationship with this United States government and Article 6 of the United States Constitution, that we're the only people that are in the Constitution, and how we gave up so much to be able to, and we need to use that better to get the resources that we need in our community,
Right.
for healthcare, for education, tribal colleges, and how we, and and a lot of people don't realize that we have a lot of successful tribal members. When they sat in the teepees in the prairies of Wyoming, hammering out the language of a treaty, they didn't speak English. The white men didn't speak Lakota, so they had a trust. That trust had to be there. So whatever Lakota LPP, the Hidako Chimiki LPP, they had to trust the interpreters that they were saying the right thing to these white men, and the white men had to trust the interpreters. So whatever they were saying was translated to the leader to the big language. Now, then I was reminded, I was also reminded that these leaders reached out to the spirits for guidance. I want people to know that they made a decision to enter into a treaty, so I could be sitting here talking to you today.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, that's because if they had not, they would have killed everyone of us. Because of Ikachum, the leader. I don't never use the word chiefs. That's why it's here. Ikachum is the leader. They thought that great man outnumbered us, and they're more and more powerful. They had bigger guns. They had more power in many ways that they could violate. So that decision was made, the treaties, and to me, popular for them. And so here we are today.
Yes, thank you so much. That is really wonderful. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
After our interviews concluded, a number of women came into the room where we were recording. There were just so many amazing stories about what they had been doing over their careers in California, at Ogallala, Washington, D.C., and here at the National Congress of American Indians. That, to me, is the untold story, the power of what Native leaders like Cecilia Fire Thunder have been able to do in the last half century. I'm Mark Trahant, and this is Breaking History. Do me a favor, hit that subscribe button. Thank you for joining us.